Hi, everybody. It's Matt Hawes of Comics Unlimited and The Happy Show. Comics Unlimited is, as I mentioned before, located inside Evansville, Indiana's The Big E Superstore on 1540 Van Avenue. So if you're ever in the city, in the area, come and visit. And we're open the first and third weekends of every month. So that's that plug. And then there's a Big E2. I feel it's necessary to point this out for my fellow vendors on the other side of the building. Same building, we have another store that's open every weekend. Similar deal. It's another flea market. We just expand it into the other part. One half is every, 2 weeks every month. I want to say every other weekend, but that's not exactly the case. It's the first and third weekend. Anyway, and then the other half's every weekend. Um, but I just throw my little plugs in at the beginning of these videos just because of case there's somebody listening that's from Evansville or going to be in the area. Then that way they can come by and give us some support there. Really appreciate it. But of course, my vlog here really has to do with something that it might hopefully be of interest to everybody out there and concerning to people or what have you. I don't know. Rambling now. This is actually a continuation of sorts from my previous vlog where I talked about certain letters and stuff that I've picked up through the years and kept, that have to do with either my business or with just me personally, but not personal letters though. It's things that have to do with with the Happy Show or with my shop Comics Unlimited and such like that. With these two letters I plan to talk about today, both actually have to do with one with the business and one with the Happy Show. Uh, so they both pertain to those subjects. This one was sent to me by the Indiana Department of Transportation. So to quickly explain what's going on with this, 2008. Okay, I have to remind myself when this happened. So in 2008, the Department of Transportation for Indiana was they were doing construction. They're always doing construction, but anyway, they were doing construction on what is Diamond Avenue here in Evansville, Indiana, and people from this city will know that's one of our major streets, and that was a street that my shop was on. It was located on right there on Diamond Avenue, corner of Stringtown and Diamond, which is now a fireworks place. But that's where I was for 18 and a half years. And so they were doing some major construction, and at that point, they decided to close down one of the sides of the road. Diamond is so busy, they couldn't close down the entire road. A lot of times you get construction done in different areas, they close down the whole stretch of road, right? But that's how big Diamond is in the city, and is that they had to keep the flow going because it's too big of a street to shut off entire or road to whatever to shut off entirely, right? So so basically they did one half for a time and then they switched over to the other half. This was during the time that the half on my side was closed. They closed that road. People could still get to my store, but they had to go through a roundabout way to get to it when there was working in that area, when there was work going on in that area. And then behind me was behind my shop was some office buildings that at that time mostly were unoccupied. They were office and retail spots that had been rented out. So the Indiana Department of Transportation, once it got down to my stretch of where my shop was, decided that they were going to occupy those spots back behind me to have their meetings and such, and as a headquarters, I guess, while the operations were going on in that general area. So that's fine and all, but what happened is they would I would come there in the morning to open my shop, and my shop was in the same parking lot. I shared a parking lot with a gas station. At that time, it was Bustlers. They still, as I understand, own the property. We're also actually my landlords on my building too, but the buildings for their gas station, convenience station, and my shop were, like I said, sharing the same parking space, and I was limited. I was told from the get go I would have to share my parking spaces with people over at the convenience store, or whatever, the gas station, and and they had plenty of parking over there too. But I just had to give give that up to their people if customers came there as well. And I understood that, but I was still pretty severely limited on parking spaces in that respect. So the reason I'm bringing this up is so it factors into the fact that NDOT would have these meetings, and usually it was just in the morning. And it was honestly a lot of times it was over by the time I opened my business, but not always. And so I'd come in, I'd see all these white Indiana Department of Transportation vehicles. They had the markings and such, and it. At first I just let it roll, but then after a while I start thinking, I gotta say something because they sometimes, like I said, the meetings were longer, and I depended on customers obviously who needed to be able to park somewhere. I want them to be able to park basically by the building if possible, of course. So I just went and nicely asked them. I said, "Would you guys do something about that because I need those parking spaces?" And the guy acted, decent enough, and the head of the place or whatever said that they were going to take care of it and all that. And so I'm like, okay, thanks. Then it kept up, so I finally had to say something again. Again, I was being cordial and nice and everything, trying to be professional, and they said they'd take care of it again. But then I thought, man, what the heck, but then they decided, I guess because of me asking them not to do that, despite the fact that I wasn't getting mean or nasty, they decided to put a huge equipment trailer in front of my store. And I looked at that and I thought, what the hell is this? Because you cannot see my shop going down the other side of the road. You couldn't see it from either direction really, because that's how long and wide this trailer was. And it was just like an equipment trailer. Nobody was in it. They just parked it in front of there. Now, at this time, not very far away from my shop was a restaurant that had recently closed. It was just across Stringtown, which is on the corner. Like I said, I was on that corner, so they could have parked it there. I was pretty sure they could have parked it there if they really needed a spot, or they could have parked it even a little further down than where they did have it. It wouldn't have been blocking anybody else's view. Hell, there was a whole strip mall that they could have blocked it or parked it anywhere along the way there, and the strip mall was set far enough back it wouldn't have blocked the view of any of the stores. So, in other words, it seemed pretty obvious to me that they did this to be spiteful. And so I went and asked the guy from NDOT, would he, Indiana Department of Transportation, NDOT, I asked them, would they be able to move that? Because I said, what the heck is this all about? I said, you're totally blocking my shop. And he said, kind of disingenuously, I could tell, that, well, we hire contractors and we have no control over where they put the trucks, and we can ask them, but I said, you don't have no control. You hire them. They were hired by the Department of Transportation. I said you're telling me you can't have them move this trailer, and that's what he was trying to tell me. So I always tell people, and this applies definitely in this situation, it applies in the next situation I'm going to discuss, and it applies just generally in life. I always say, I'm not one of these people. Okay, first of all, I should explain. I don't try to stir crap. I try to go in with people. The difference is, though, from a lot of people, is I will fight when I have to. I've had to do it too many times that I care for, and I can't not fight for my rights in a sense. If somebody's screwing with me, I'm going to say something, and try to always do it as professional as possible. But I'm going to go up against anybody who's causing BS, or I just can't let somebody just jerk me around. Let me just put it that way. So, and I always say, when you have something going wrong, I'm a firm believer in contact and making letters. Even this day and age, snail mail, as they call it, snail mail letters, still hit home because it shows you take the time to actually do to write a letter, but also even emails. But I'm that person. I will contact these people and say, give them what for, basically. Because if you don't do it, you're definitely guaranteeing nothing will ever be done to affect positive change for you. If you do it, may not do no good. And that's another thing that this one did good, I'm going to tell you about, but the next story, kind of, but not fully. But they're both examples of why I still believe you should write whenever you feel you're wronged to corporations or whoever. Doesn't have to be a corporation, it could be individual, whatever. When you feel that you're being done wrong, of course, respectfully and professionally. So anyway, I did write to the mayor, the city controller, the what was it, the any place, Indiana Department of Transportation. I wrote to these places, and here's what's funny. All I did was show photographs. I took photographs of the trailer in front of my store. Didn't say anything else about these people at the Indiana Department of Transportation being spiteful or the contractors or nothing. Didn't even say anything about that. I just simply showed the pictures of how it was blocking my building and was asking if something could be done about that. So after being told by the people at the headquarters by my shop that they couldn't do anything, suddenly I get a different story when I get called by the city controller. The city controller contacts me personally at my shop, and he tells me he spoke with them, and he assures me that they said they didn't do it out of spite, which, again, I didn't say anything about my letter, which reveals something. People reveal themselves all the time in different ways. It revealed that it was done out of spite, because why was I even brought up? They told on themselves. But while he's talking to me about this, I'm hearing the sounds of the hydraulic brakes or whatever lifting on that trailer, and I'm watching it move to the location that I suggested before it could be moved. So even though the Indiana Department of Transportation tried to tell me it could be moved, obviously with a right letter to the right person, it suddenly could be moved. Go figure. Well, this was from the Indiana Department of Transportation. This letter came after it was already moved, if I remember correctly. But again, I wrote them a snail mail letter, and they wrote me back a letter. So by the time I got this letter, it was already taken care of. Because this was actually wrote to the transportation, like I said, the Department of Transportation. There was the city controller here in Evansville that contacted them and got them to move the thing, apparently. So I was trying to hit all sources. That's another thing. If you're dealing with a company and there's various people to write to all of them. Get some way you can get your letter through if you do that. Usually. It says, "Dear Mr. Halls, thank you for your letter to the Governor Daniels." Oh, that's right. I wrote to the governor too. About your business comics limit in Evansville. The governor appreciates the time you took to share your concerns, and he asked me to respond on his behalf. This is Charlene Parrish, the governor's liaison. I know the word. I just have trouble pronouncing it there. No, for the Indiana Department of Transportation. Anyway, it's always helpful to have input for Hoosiers. That's what they call us here in Indiana. If you're from Indiana, you're a Hoosier. And here their ideas regarding the challenges we face. The parking of the Indiana Department of Transportation employees and the contractors' employees has been addressed by the Vincennes District Director of Highway Operations. The project engineer has also been contacted about this situation. It is my understanding that the employees are no longer parking in your customers' parking spaces, and the trailer is no longer blocking the view of your business. Yeah, because I had the controller move that. Get them to move it. Anyway, I can assure you that this parking concern will no longer be an issue for you. I understand that construction can be an inconvenience to both motorists and to the public, and could possibly have an impact on your area of business, but it is necessary when improving Indiana's roadways. Yeah, well, it wasn't necessary to park in front of my shop like that, but that was an instance where that got taken care of. And then after that, they cut into the power lines and took out power for a good part of the city at that time, including my shop. It was a wonderful period. Thankfully, that's over with. I might even have videos here on YouTube on this channel that might have to do with that whole deal, with the construction. You'll have to look back. That was back, what I said, 2009 or whatever, towards the end of 2009, beginning of 2010. So anyway, I'm going to make the rest of this kind of brief, but along the same lines of having to write to somebody. when we did the Happy Show, when I did the Happy Show, and when we also did other public access shows like David W. Johnson, the Kitchen Magician, the Culinary Conjurer of Mealtime Magic, would do his shows, and the church people did their shows as well here on local public access. A lot of the people, or a lot of the programs were not put on when they were supposed to be put on. That's because Insight and SiggyCom, was it? I try to remember who was all in control at the time. These companies keep changing hands. But it was Insight, and I think SiggyCom was at that point in time the other company. We had two cable companies. Both were supposed to honor through franchise agreements to have a public access channel for the public to have a voice. That sort of thing. And all we ask, because you don't make money for public access. That's not what it's about. It's not a commercial endeavor. It's just to give the public a voice. You can do entertainment stuff like I did with the Happy Show, informative stuff, or even religious stuff as they did with the churches. But there is supposed to be channels for provide for government, for I'm trying to remember now, government for was it news or whatever. Anyway, and then public access. There's three. I'm going blank now on the exact three. But it's not supposed to be for commercial purpose, right? So we're not supposed to advertise and all that. Fine. I was filming inside my shop, but I did not overtly advertise, and that was never the intention of the Happy Show. So, anyway, so I did, but we just simply asked just the bare minimum. Just put our shows on whenever you schedule our shows to be put on. They are the ones who schedule when the shows go on. We just simply said, stick to it. Let it be at the time instead of just randomly showing it whenever. I could never tell somebody when they actually watched the show because of the way they did that. So I finally got frustrated enough that apparently it was in 2003. I always thought of this, when I thought back on this in recent years, I always thought it happened at a time when I was already doing YouTube, which actually makes sense now that I think about that it wasn't, because it was at the very end of 2003. The reason why it makes sense that it wasn't is I actually kind of got, I hate to say, a little bit discouraged about things and was almost going to just stop with the Happy Show altogether. YouTube, for better or worse, some people may curse the YouTube for this, YouTube gave me a new life in a sense, because I knew I'd still be reaching an audience. I apparently was reaching an audience even on public access that saw it a lot more than I ever realized. I'll delve in more on that later, but I found a lot of people still were able to find the show and watch it. And I got a lot of feedback in person from people in the area who saw it and we watched it. But at the time, though, like I said, it was kind of despondent because it just seemed like I was banging my head against the wall. This is an example where I wrote, it got some kind of positive result, seemingly, but and ultimately, those cable companies just did what they wanted to do. But at this time, though, the one satisfaction I had about this is the guy I talked to before I wrote the letter. I called and asked to talk to the head guy here in Evansville, Indiana, at Insight about the issue. See, they were literally having the ladies up in the front lobby at the Insight building here in town, which collected your bill money and all that, and dealt with that customer service angle. They were having those ladies be the people that pop in the tapes, and they were VHS still at the time too. They would pop them into the machine at the appropriate time. Well, they were dealing with customer service. It shouldn't have been regulated to those people anyway. But anyway, so it never got in like it was supposed to. Sometimes maybe they didn't get in at all. So I talked to the guy about it. The guy was really kind of rude. What was his name? Helmbold? Is it what was it said? Yeah, Helmbold. So I talked to Mr. Helmbold about this on the phone, and he was assuring me that they're doing their job, blah blah blah. I said, but they ain't getting there on time, and he basically was being blunt and saying how he doesn't even care for public access because he was trying to say how like Nazi organizations or whoever out there in New York or whatever had public access TV shows and blah blah blah. And while he was using basically the worst elements, saying the worst elements of public access that's out there. The reason that's impossible is because there is such a thing as free speech, and while I totally don't agree with certain free speech, that's the whole point of free speech. You don't have to agree with everything it says if you're for free speech. But my point is, I'm not defending any of these people at all. But it's a moot point because that's not what was happening in Evansville anyway. Most people just thought it was a church channel because mostly it was just churches that was using public access, and then me and Dave. That was pretty much it. So so his argument wasn't even sound regardless. I mean, but he was just trying to say that he doesn't want public access, more or less. That's what he's getting at. But he was honoring it because he knew legally he was bound to, like contractually, he was bound to do so. But I said, I could tell what the way his attitude was. That he really wasn't doing more than blowing me off, really, trying to blow me off. So I said, is there anybody above you I could speak to? I said, or does the buck stop with you? And of course he said, oh, I'm the top. The buck stops with me. I'm like, okay, see, I already knew that was BS because Insight is a chain across the nation. At least it was at the time. Again, I don't know if they changed their name now or what. But I knew that there was a corporate office in Louisville, Kentucky. So I knew there was somebody above him. I just asked to see what he would say. And I wrote to them. And they wrote me back a letter. And now the reason I like this is because what I mean is, even though it wasn't 100% successful, I hate to say, they gave me more lip service than here, but at least they did more where they weren't being so much, they were not saying they weren't for public access. They were basically trying to appeal to me here and act like they were going to do something about it. Unfortunately, ultimately, unless they were going to police this guy locally, it was never going to be fully taken care of if he didn't listen to what they were saying here. But at least he knew I could get a hold of his boss. It did say in here, Dear Mr. Halls, I'm in receipt of your letter concerning our operation and the use of public access in the Evansville system. I assure you that we share your concerns and that we do support the community and the rights to community to have a voice. Yeah, lip service there. In discussing this matter with Mr. Helmholtz, they actually had to contact him, so he knew. I found he did have a boss. He related that the system has erred in starting a number of your programs on time. It erred. No, they just freaking didn't put it on. These late starts have not been due to lack of our interest in public access programming, but rather to increase activity in public access, equipment issues, and staffing concerns. No, it means that he just regulated it to the ladies up front that they're rolling into the machine. Anyway, he has discussed this matter with staff and requests that more attention be given to starting the programs in accordance with the scheduled start times. It's clear that the manual operation of starting these programs has made it difficult for the system to comply with the requested schedules. Request the schedules, they put the schedules. We didn't request the time, they put the time. And they couldn't even adhere to their own timeline, their own schedule. Along these lines, we have already placed orders for new equipment that will automate the process. In the time I was on public access, I don't believe that ever happened, and improve the performance of the public access channel. This equipment should be in place by the end of January 2004. He's saying within a year's time because it's at the December 29th, 2003. We would, right, by the end of, by the end of January 2004. Duh, that was only a month later. It certainly didn't happen within a month. Till that time, the staff will need to rely on manually starting the programming. Insight Communications has provided public access on Channel 7 since its purchase of the Evansville cable system in 1998. My friend David W. Johnson literally went to the local government and fought to get them to honor public access. So when they say about them providing the public access only after he fought to get it done, Dave was another fighter there, and that he got them to at least put public access on like they were supposed to. I'm told that the previous owners also provide public access for the community. Okay. Since the recently published newspaper article and the number of programs on the public access channel has increased, maybe meant since then, because that's a sentence right there I just read. Since the recently published article, I read it wrong. Since the recently published newspaper article, the number of programs on the public access channel has increased. Yeah, exposure that point out you guys were putting things on time, but we welcome public access programming. We will continue to run the programming in accordance with our franchise obligations and under current FCC rules and regulations. Inside is a company that supports the communities in many ways. We are active in supporting a number of non-profit organizations, civic groups, museums, and school activities, blah, 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 blah. Oh, Mr. Helmbaugh has been instrumental in heading up this community support effort over the past 3 years, including requesting and upgrading public access equipment. The guy told me, flat out told me he didn't care for public access. I'm sure he will continue to support our efforts to be a good corporate citizen of the community. He literally told me he didn't care. So it's just funny the BS that you're handed sometimes. I should point out, but you know that like I said, that was something they were supposed to do, provide. That was part of their franchise agreement. I think I already did point that part out. I did have a point. See, that's the problem without scripting these things. I did have another point about that, but that's like I said, they just didn't want to ever fully honor things. And this thing, I wish I could say it was as successful as I was hoping. It was successful in the sense that they did respond, that they at least gave me some lip service, but ultimately they didn't really do anything. It was the same mess from the beginning to the end with them until I stopped submitting my shows. I'm not even sure if they still honored public access or not. I'm not sure whether franchise agreements are still in place for that, like they were because of the age of the internet. I mean, the internet was already a thing then, but I think they're still supposed to. But anyway, I guess that's it for this vlog. And I'll continue with some more stories and stuff like this in future vlogs about me having to deal with certain situations. And just whatever else I could think of, I guess. So I'm through rambling for now. And if you listen this long, thanks. And if you want to do all that stuff people talk about liking and subscribing and commenting and all that fun stuff, I'm not monetized, but I still appreciate it. I may eventually monetize stuff if it seems worth it. But otherwise, I do appreciate for people who actually watch this and stick with me. Yay!